Hello, this is Annika Metz, and this is my Values and Culture podcast. So the first question is, what are some of the values and beliefs that you associate with your upbringing and or cultural background that are important as you work with people? The first example is social class. That has definitely been, especially within the past year, a huge revelation for me of all the privileges that I've had growing up. The past year, I volunteered in this extremely low-income elementary school, and the experiences that I had and just what the students would tell me about what their life is like. I mean, just the other day, a student was telling me that their apartment doesn't have air conditioning. It's been extremely hot. So there's just a huge gap that I didn't necessarily realize was there. So that's definitely something that throughout my life and that I will have to educate myself further on and learn more about. Religion, I was raised Christian. I am a Christian, and it's something that I take very seriously. It's not like in the Christian community, I'm very serious about my faith. I don't see that as something, obviously I would never shield from a client. I think it is important. That's something that is so pivotal to me that I think it would be important for a client to know coming to see me. However, I don't think that the framework that I view the world, it will shape the framework that I view the world. However, it's not something that I have any intention of pushing on someone else or bringing up during a session or something like that. Spirituality, Christianity. Ethnicity, I'm white. So that's also a huge barrier. It can be for just people of color. I think I have a really good friend who talks a lot about cultural competence and how it's really important there are things we don't pick up on that we really should. And I've started to, but that's all been in the past year. I've done a lot of work in, where I grew up, we really didn't have very many people of color. I probably had one friend that was Black in high school, and that wasn't from that was just because there weren't very many. So, and then I went to school in Irvine, which was, again, very white, very wealthy. So coming here and now being in St. Paul, and I volunteered in an elementary school in the Minneapolis school district, just the difference I didn't understand. And my dream is to work with children, so that would be a factor as well. And there's also the accessibility, right? Who can afford to pay for therapy? Because if we're talking about low income, that's not an option unless it's a volunteer position. But sexual identity, I'm straight as well, so there's that as well. Study. Oh yes, I wanted to bring up as well. I read this article about a study done on the value of faith integrated with therapy, which is actually something I would be interested in, probably with other only Christian people, just because sharing, I think obviously multicultural gathering is important as well, but I think there's a deeper relatability when you share the same faith. I think that's true just across the board with religions. So I think it could be fascinating to just dive deeper in that. And then this quote that really resonated with me, he said, these themes include specific practices like using Bible and scripture in session, such as discussions of God's forgiveness. I think faith is so personal for each person, and being able to discuss that and speak the same language when it comes to therapy would allow for another level of connection and depth and healing. How would your personal or family values potentially affect how you would work with other people? It shapes me. So I feel I was raised very love your neighbor, You serve others. Like, your role in life is to be a servant, basically, for other people. And that's not like a derogatory, like, I feel like that's a privilege to show up for other people and to love others, I think is a privilege. And that's how I was raised. That's my personal values, but it's also very much familial values. My mom, especially after George Floyd, she got very involved in, I could just say 2020 as well, but got very involved with our church in anti-racism efforts and basically deconstruction, not of her faith, but just of like how racism moves in this world and how it shows up when you don't necessarily see it. And just, I've learned a lot. I haven't done half the work that she's done, but I mean, the conversations that I've had with her about that are moving and really thought-invoking. And then I've seen it in my life in the past year of how I show up differently than I would have, and how I'm able to show up more loving than I would be if I didn't have that perspective. How will I remain true to my own values while at the same time respect your clients' choices even if they're different than yours? I think what I wrote here is there's a very large distinction between a friend versus client. That line, if it starts to blur, I feel like that's a screaming red flag, and shouldn't really happen. Your client is someone who, an article by Clinical Events Organization says every therapeutic relationship involves an asymmetrical power structure. The counselor's position as a listener, healer, guide gives them influence that must never be misused. Clients often idealize their therapist, projecting trust and authority onto them. I think it's an abuse of power when that line starts to blur, and I think that's responsibility on the therapist, and I think that requires professionalism, but also integrity and maturity, and being able to make that distinction of a friend, which is reciprocal. And that doesn't mean like you can't care about clients, and that's not what I'm saying, but I'm saying there's a distinction. And while that can be extremely difficult, especially like my dream is to work with children, I would love to work with children, and I know that I'm going to adore my clients and love my clients very much, but there will be a difference just because of that power structure. How do you think your past experiences and values have prepared you to be a good counselor or helping professional? I think so. The past year, I volunteered at this elementary school, which was quite literally life-changing for me. I went to public school, and I had probably the complete opposite experience as these children. I apologize. I was trying to record it in a way that I could upload it, and it cut off again. So I'm just gonna keep going. I just have to pull it up because I just had the recording I did that it wasn't letting me upload playing. So let me get to my values and cultures. Okay. And I was talking about volunteering at the school, and I was also talking about I'm not a person to shy away from conversations, and I've had significant life experiences that have prepared me for being a good counselor. One example would be my parents split up, which is ironic, but I was really young, and I basically forced it to be my job to take care of my siblings. And I just developed this really this desire to, I've always loved kids, but the maturity that I was able to have at that age, compared to I've always loved conversations. I would be sitting with the adults talking instead of playing with my siblings. So that's something that was important to me. And then think I covered the rest of it. I apologize. This has like been so frustrating. I was trying to get it to work with uploading it with the initial one I had, and then it wasn't working. So I was like, I'll upload it to YouTube. So I apologize, and I appreciate your patience. Yeah. Thank you.